All right, Russell, we're recording this presentation and I may post it on YouTube. Do I have your permission?
You do.
That's great. So our guest tonight is Russel Fouts. Russell has taught workshops, lectured, and shown his work internationally. He also has several publications under his belt. Much of his work falls into the low fire alternative category. He's presenting to us from Belgium, where it's 3:30 in the morning. That's a serious commitment, Russell.
Wow.
Thank you so much. I'm very grateful for your generosity. So let's welcome Russell and let Russell tell his story.
All right. Hello, everybody. I was just going to say greetings from the future. It's 3:30 in the morning here of November 11th. So I'm a day ahead of you guys already. And I'm just going to be demonstrating a couple of pots I make and talk about my work. So a lot of you, I invited a lot of my friends. So a lot of my friends are here. So that's really nice. Thank you for showing up. And hang on, I'm trying to get a wire here. And so a lot of people know me, and I've been making pots since about the 1970s, late 1970s when I was in school. And then I went to work for some earthenware potters, Doug Bro and Jan Hoyman, after I left school there. And I'm sorry about the glare. I have a very, very bright LED light here. And I think that's also what's making the waves in the screen, if you can see that too. If you have any questions, please feel free to stop me and ask. And I will try to answer them as best I can. I'm just trying to, my clay is very hard. I bought this clay. My neighbors are up. I don't know why, but my studio's in the cellar and I can hear them going back and forth above me. And I don't, maybe they're going somewhere, I don't know. Anyway, so I started making pots in the 1970s and then went to work with some earthenware potter friends of mine who had graduated a little bit ahead of me, Doug Bro and Jan Hoyman. And then I went to Europe, and at the time I was in England, and in England it was 1980, and they had 3 million people unemployed, and a lot of potteries were closing. I was looking for work in a pottery, and a lot of potteries were closing, and so there wasn't anything there. So I ended up doing volunteer. I ended up started working for a not-for-profit, first in England and then in Portugal, and then in the States, and then back in Belgium, and a little bit in Germany, and all around. And that was about 15 years. And I didn't start making pots again until I actually settled permanently in Belgium. And I was just talking with Ken about that break, and it was really useful because you're a potter and you're always thinking about pots. You're always looking at pots, even if you're not making pots. Even for 15 years, you're still thinking about pots, and it really helped me a lot. My work that I was doing after when I started making pots again after 15 years was completely different from what I had learned and where I had come from. And so I'm going to move this camera over here. Oh, the other thing is, if you have a question, you can ask it, and with Zoom, the quickest way to do that, to unmute yourself, is just press the space bar for the length of time that you want to ask your question, and then let go, and then you'll be muted again. So it's very easy. Part of that comes
Awesome.
from
I just learned something. Thank you.
my
Already.
day job. My day job is in IT, and we use Zoom a lot, and I actually don't know all the ins and outs of it, but so I'm working. This is my studio. It's quite small. It's about 12 meters by 12 meters. I want this down a little bit. Sorry, excuse me. Yeah, I want this on the table here. Then when I did this the first time to organize this. It was there, that's better. So I don't really do any wedging unless you want to call what I'm doing now this kind of folding and squashing, stuff like that. Wedging, maybe it is finger wedging, hand wedging, something like that. That's a little bit too much. I'll take that. I'm going to one of the things I make right now is I'm making a lot of guinomi sake or sake cups or espresso cups. I primarily use them for espresso because I drink espresso and I don't drink sake so much. So I'm going to demonstrate on how I make those. So I'll start with a ball of clay about that size, and I'll roll it. So one of the things about pinching pots, I've always pinched pots. I love to pinch pots. Even when I was throwing in school, I was pinching pots. And one thing that I don't know if she showed up, Marcia, Marcia. I invited her, but I'm not sure she made it. But one thing Marcia taught me was preparing your balls before you, and that sounds terrible, preparing your clay ball. You
got everybody
prepared ball
laughing in here
when you pinch pots. And so she had various ways that she did it. And so I have mine, and I'm just rolling this out, and I'm going to make a long, this is really great clay. Don't ask me about this clay because you can't get it. It's unobtainable. It's only available in Belgium, and I'm not even sure it's available anymore. Because like I said, I ordered a 1,000 kilos of it a while ago. And when you make small stuff, you don't go through your clay very fast. And some of this stuff is quite stiff. So you can see I'm making a really long, this stuff really rolls out really well. It's a terrific clay for hand building. It throws really well. My friends, they know Carla Flatty. Carla used to call this God's own clay because it was so nice to work with. So I've made a really long, you see, really long coil. And I'll take and I'll fold it. Fold it up like this. You see what I'm doing here? I can, yeah, I'll fold it again. You see, like I've got this now, and I might fold it again, and then give it a little twist to sort of make it make things join up better. So you've got something like this. I've got this ball like this, you can see, and you can see how well in the light is. And so I will just compact it a bit, but I don't want to lose the ribs. Okay, so I'll compact it a bit like that and make the ball like that. And then I'll take, and I'm doing this in my left hand, which I never do. And I'll make, I'm making a hemisphere. I'm just pounding it on the table. See how stiff the clay is? Like that. And I've made, you see, a hemisphere. And kind of looks like a little turd. And then I'll take, and I take my trusty heat gun here. It's just tangled up in my camera cord, which is not good. And what I'm doing is I just want to take off the, I want to create a crust on the outside so that I don't lose the ridges. And I'm just drying it, and I'm looking for a color change. It'll go from this nice kind of baby poop brown to dry colored baby poop brown, and then I can start working with it. Get down a little lower here. So I've got this now a dry turd, and what I'll start here. I'll move my camera around a little bit so you all can see yourself. but you can see what I'm doing. So I'm just pinching this in the center. And the reason I do this like this, rather than the traditional method of you jam your thumb in and pinch around, is it's a lot easier. And when your hands get older, things get more stiff and stuff, and it's just so much easier. And so I'm pinching down and around, and I'm pinching in, but I'm also pulling up on the outside at the same time. And I'm just trying to make a depression that I can use to start the pot with, and even up the walls. Have a quite thick thing, and like that, you see. And then
I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
When you say the traditional method versus what you're doing, you're talking about starting from a hemisphere as opposed to a ball shape.
Yeah.
Thank you.
This is just a lot easier. And then what I'm doing is now I'm starting to really pinch, and I'm pinching the clay from the rim and moving it down into the base of the pot. I'm also pulling up on the outside, and I'm also coloring in. Oops, I'm losing bits. and coloring in, and at the same time. And the nice thing, one of the wonderful things about pinching pots is it's really intimate, and you have you're working with the clay, and it's just, I don't know, you have so much flexibility. You can do whatever you want with it. It's really nice. And it's difficult. It's difficult to look. It's difficult to see what. How can I say? To show you what I'm doing, and for me to see what I'm doing. So I'm actually making this, and I'm looking at the screen.
I know exactly what you're saying, Russell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm pushing stuff down. I'm trying to get. One thing about when you're pinching is you can move clay around to where you need it. And what I'm doing is I'm pushing clay down along the wall into the bottom so that I can widen the bottom out. And now I'm starting to do that, widen the bottom out to make a wider bottom on the cup. And so these, when I make these, they're usually about this size. They're usually 30 ounces, 60 ounces, like that, not really much bigger than that. And so there, I've got that now.
Yeah.
And then I'll take and make let's use that clay there. It's a little more clay, like that. A little finger wedging more. That's probably a little bit too much. And I can always cut it. So I'm going to roll out another.
How long have you been pinching pots like this with that coil technique?
Oh, maybe about 10 years or so.
Oh,
I think.
I thought it was relatively new for you.
On and off.
When I saw what you posted, I was just blown away. Such beautiful work.
Thank you. Thank you. So I'm making another coil about pencil size, and that was showing off that you can make coils with one hand. And so I've made another coil that's about pencil size. And what I'm going to do is I am going to turn my camera around here again, so you all can see yourselves. And then I'm going to just join this coil into the top of the pot like this. And I'm right now I'm just kind of just giving it a light pinch into the inside of the rim of the pot, just to join it. That's enough. Break that off and stick that in there. And then I'll go, let's see how to figure it. Yeah, I'll pinch backwards. That way you can see what's happening. And then, so I'm making I'd probably dry this a little bit too much. I got bits falling off it. It's always the case for the demo. And so I'm just pinching, I'm joining this to the rim of the other pot, and the pot. And the reason why I do this is not to make make the pot taller, but I find that it looks nicer with it gives a nice finished rim to the pot, and a nice definition of the end of the pot, like a nice lip on a thrown pot, that kind of thing. And I'm just, again, still clay to the pot and joining that up. Yeah, I think I did do that a little bit too dry. And then I'll go along, and now I'm melding the rim with the rest of the pot, so it doesn't look like, oh, he stuck a coil on top of that. So it looks more integral, like it's actually part of the pot. And I like to shape this well, so it's at a good angle, for your lip and stuff like that, comfortable to drink from. But I like to leave it a little bit rough, because I like the whole effect. I like them to look natural, like something organic. And then then you have that. And
This is wonderful.
thank you.
Can
And
you
then
show
you
the
have,
bottom again?
sorry?
Can you show the bottom of it?
Yeah. And bits have fallen off because they were too dry. It's still really interesting. And this, so it's got the bottom, you can see is kind of round. It's kind of, roly-poly. And so I'll bump the bottom a little bit to make it a little more stable. And then I will, let's move this camera on this way. Sorry if I'm making anybody dizzy. I'm just trying to, what's that? Oh, Louise. Oops. All right, camera fell over. So I'm just, so when you bump it, you end up with a flat bottom on the inside. I don't really like that. And the wonderful thing about pinching pots is that you can always move the clay around to where you need it. And so now I'm making a more rounded bottom on the inside. And also when you do it this way against the bench, it keeps the flat bottom on the pot, and you don't. And so yeah, like that. So, and then that's how I make those. And if you, I think I'll move over here so you can see better there. So that's one of those. And this is one that's been bisqued, and sorry if this light's a bit harsh. This has been bisqued. It had a white terra sig applied, several layers, and then it was bisqued, and then it's fired under charcoal. I'll go into that later, and it ends up looking like this. This effect. This is actually a bigger one. This is about 60 centiliters, or I forget.
I thought
60,
you had some magic clay that expanded rather than shrank.
No, it shrinks quite a lot because it's earthenware. So yeah, so yeah, you have to watch. I don't want those. You have to watch your sizes, because it could shrink into something that's not really very useful. That's that pot. And then there's another pot I make. And again, going back to this clay. So I didn't make pots for 15 years. And I went back to, when I first settled in Belgium permanently, I didn't have a studio. And so I went to one of the local arts academies and took classes there just to have a studio. And which was fine with the teacher there at the time, Nathalie Doyen. And she didn't care, just as long as you were working. So that was fine. And when I went there, I asked her the clay, what kind of clay she had, and she took me down to the clay storage room, and they had a lot of stoneware clays and stuff like that, but I really wanted to work with earthenware. And she showed me the earthenware clay they had. It was way in the back of the room, and it sat there for ages, and it was really, really stiff. It wasn't dry, but it's just really, really hard and stiff. Nobody liked it. She said, everybody hates this clay. Nobody wants to use it. It's very cheap clay, and the flower pot company that I get it from, which is near the Dutch border, sells it to all the elementary schools, and they make animals and stuff out of it and fire them. And I thought, well, I'll try it, I'll see it. And so, but when I got it, it was really, really stiff and really hard to do anything with. And I wanted to hand build. And so I had been looking at, I don't remember whether it was Leach's Pottery Studio or Carju's, but one of them was using talked about an old Chinese technique where you create a hump mold, and you carve the hump mold, and then you beat clay over the hump mold, and you end up with an incised interior of a pot. And I thought, oh, that'd be interesting to try. So I started doing that, and it was about the only thing I could do with the clay. And so I have these, when I started working with, so I started, beating the clay, beating the pot. Well, I have this stick that I made. It's just basically a chamois. I'm trying to get a color better. No, it's just basically just a chamois that's stapled over a piece of board, and I've whittled the handles down to be more comfortable, fit my hand better. And I've got handles on both sides because the chamois tends to absorb water and then stick, and so you can swap out sides. You got 4 places where you can swap out sides and give it a chance to dry, so you can keep using the stick and make lots of pots. And so I was beating these pots to make my bowls, and using a hump mold that they had, and the beating is really hard, and the hump mold really needs to be massive to stand up to it. And so I broke the mold I had, and I had to make another one, and I had to make 2 because I had to replace the one that I was using. And I came to the realization that they really need to be massive. So I came up with this, which this is, when people say you can't fire solid stuff, you can fire solid stuff. This is, you can see, this is massive. It's heavy as heck. And the only part that's hollow is just this depression. You can't see it further. Is this just depression here, in here. And it's really heavy. And I use it, ouch. And I use it on a big sturdy banding wheel, and with a piece of cut out yoga mat, really, between the hump mold and the banding wheel, partly to cushion the blow, but also to help keep the hump mold on the banding wheel. So I'm going to move over here and move the camera again, so you can see. So this is that's my hump mold, and I got my beater. I need some clay. So so what else? Yeah, when I was in the academy using the studio, the beating wasn't really very popular with some people. They thought it was too noisy, and but Natalie didn't complain. I was over in my corner with my potter friends, and making pots and stuff. And but you'll see in a minute, it's quite noisy and noticeable. So I've got so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make, if you looked at the materials I have online, I have these big black bowls with a sculpted rim, and those are actually made with actually a whole bag of clay, but I'm going to just use a half a bag of clay. And one thing I don't really need to shape the ball of clay too much, because even with squared edges, it'll still come out okay. You can see I don't think you can hear that, but you can see it shaking the camera. This clay is really hard. So I'll start with a mass like that. And one of the things about I talked about preparing the ball of clay that you're going to use, and so anything you do on this edge here, anything you do on it's going to go like this on the hump mold, and I'm going to beat it down. So anything you do here will end up on the rim through the process of beating. So this is just a wooden knife. I have various things I do this with. I also have I think it's an onion peeler. It's got a lot of needles in it, and you stick it through the onion so you can cut the onion cutter. A lot of you stick it through the onion so you can slice the onion without ever having to hold it. Anyway, and so I'm just making a lot of dents in this and trying not to hit my fingers, because that hurts. And you go kind of all different ways like this, and just it doesn't really matter what you do here. I mean, you can do anything you want. It all comes out in the end. It all comes out quite terrific. I wanted to do something. So anything you do, like I said, anything you do, and I have all these. Let's use this. No, let's use something like this. So I have all these. I use roulettes a lot when I'm doing slab building, and I made these from texture plates. There's in the materials on the file share. It shows how I make these, and so, and if you do this, you see, make it some texture like this with a roller. Oh, I'm getting breathing noises again. Hand building is effort. You have to breathe. Lots of heavy breathing. So I'm just rolling. I'm not being too exact about it. I'm just rolling some texture that appears on top of these ridges. That there. I don't know if you can see that. You can see that. Okay, good. So that's the pot. That's the ball, and I try to center it on there, and I start beating. And I'm beating. Right now, I'm just trying to beat it down to get it kind of into shape. Just straight down. I'm beating, and like I said, this clay is quite hard. I don't know if you can hear the beating sound. Maybe you can't. I haven't done one of these in a while, and my arm is getting quite tired already. Little rest. And I'm just turning the mold, trying to time it with the beating of the stick. And if this gets off center, you can recenter it. Just pick it up and move it where you need it, so it's centered again. And back to beating again. You kind of want to gauge what you're doing here, so you don't get it too thin on the bottom. I like about a 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, something like that. Oh, before I go on, I don't know if I said this already. If I mention temperature, temperatures are always in centigrade. Just from confusing me, basically. So And then that's why I have my pin tool. So I'll just use a pin tool and check the thickness. Yeah, a little more. The hole disappears again during the beating, so you don't really need to worry about making the hole. That should be all right now. I don't need to test it. It's probably okay. The thing about doing a demo like this is when I'm working in my studio, I'm always talking to myself in my head anyway about what I'm doing. I think Mishi's laughing. Yes, we all do it. And to do a demo, all I need to do is just say that out loud. So and try not to be boring. And so, okay, so I've got it. I've got the bottom set. And now what I'm doing is I will, I'm beating around like this, but I'm pounding it and doing a slightly pulling, a beat and pull kind of motion. And again, you know, trying to turn it evenly around. Oh, my arm is gonna be so sore after this. You kind of want to also watch that your mold doesn't slip off the banding wheel. So you can see I'm beating and pulling it down over the hump mold. And with my thumb here, I'm trying to keep an eye on, you know, how this edge is matching up with the bottom of the hump mold. Sorry if you're getting any heavy breathing. Some kind of telephone pervert. I'm also trying to keep this a nice round shape as much as I can. So now that I'm down close to the rim, you can still see a bit of the mold down there. So now it's much more subtle, and I want to bring this down over the edge of the. So what happens is that this actually goes down over the edge of the hump mold and creates a kind of a depression or what word I used? I can't remember. Anyway, creates kind of an impression under the lip of the bowl, which I find is quite nice. It gives a nice shadow at the rim. Where am I? Yeah, good. So I'm gonna try to even things up here a little bit. Yeah, and I'll go back and always end up with this ridge here when you do that. So I'll go back and kind of pat that out a little bit there. So this is down over the rim, and you could go back if you wanted a smooth bottom. You could go back and you know, beat some more and beat down these ridges and stuff, and try to get really nice and smooth, and then use a scraper and a rib to smooth it down. But I used to do that, but that's a lot of work. So I cheat. Some people call it cheating. So I make these. I like roulettes, like I said, and this is a ball roulette. It's just I took a ball of clay and I let it get leather hard, and then I carved grooves in it around this way and then around the other way 90 degrees, and then I bised it. It's solid. More proof that you can you can do solid stuff. And what this does is I just go over the surface and make a round movement like this. over the surface, and it makes a nice surface that hides bumps, hides all any depressions that you have as well. That's why you notice the chamois on the stick isn't really smooth. It doesn't really matter when you're doing this because you can always fix it this way. And like I said, sometimes some people call this cheating. A lot of people that have bought these pots, this is a really nice texture. People have said that they really enjoy holding these because that stipple texture is a very nice texture in their hand. And that's kind of nice. I like that. And going back to cheating, in the studio, Natalie, she was the ceramics teacher, was teaching people to slip and score to join pots and stuff together. And I've always just used a little bit of vinegar. You dip your finger in the vinegar and then flick it off and then swipe. And that's it. The vinegar works terrific. And she jokingly accused me of cheating by doing that. But it's a matter of, you know, whether you slip or score or do it that way or whatever you do, magic water, paper clay. It's a matter of your clay. This clay joins to itself really, really easily, really, really well. And it's also knowing your clay. So I know where I can push this clay. I've used this clay exclusively since '95. I don't use anything else. I can do anything I need to do with this clay. And so there's a big thing about, you know, it's really important to know your materials. And so I'm going down all the way down, and I want a little bit of unstippled space here, sort of define the border between here and the lip. And I'll go down a little bit further. I usually like about a centimeter, something like that. Actually, because the lights are set up for the demo, I can't actually see too well what I'm doing. So I'm sort of, it's a little dark on my side. So I'm just making this little border there. So that's about how I do it. You think you can see that this is smooth here? And see, and it's covered up all the lumps and bumps and stuff like that, and made a nice bottom. So I have 3 of these hump molds, and in the time that it takes me to make 3 of these, I can take the first one off. And what I do is I'll go around. I'm going to just show this there, and I'm because the edge of the pot goes a bit over the edge of the hump mold. You kind of have to, I go along here and I pull this out just a little bit to, I'm not going to take this off because it's not ready yet, but I just pull this off, go around here a bit and pull it off. And just so that you can, when it comes time to take the pot off, that it won't have shrunk too much around the rim of the hump mold and not be able to be got off or even crack sometimes. So like that. And and then I don't have one I prepared earlier, so I will try to take this off and get my hand under here so you can see what happens on the rim. Oh, this is heavy. Okay, so you see what's happened here.
Oh, yeah.
And you have even the jaggedness of where I beat it, but you also have on top of those, you can see up here. I'm trying to point where I was looking. The texture from the texture roll as well. So these are quite a lot of fun to do. I like these. And whether you massacre the edge of the ball or not, whether you manipulate the edge of the ball or not, even if you don't do that, just the action of beating the clay down over the edge, you still get a nice bit of action on the rim, but it's much more subtle. But it's also very nice, and that's another reason why I really like making these this way. And because I've picked this up and I've smudged it a little bit, I can go back over and repair the smudgy spots with this, and nobody's the wiser. I was on there's a Facebook group, Clay Buddies, and somebody posted a site where you can actually buy. I've never seen ball roulettes for sale anywhere, and he posted a link to I forget what store it was, where you could actually buy these, and like $39 a piece. It's like, get a ball of clay, make it yourself. $40 for a ball mold. There were some nice patterns that they had, but yeah, I really you can do a lot yourself.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
clay is
a really
such,
wonderful texture.
Russell,
yeah.
I want to ask Russell, the interior of the bowl, is it all got a lot of ridges and stuff inside, or
No.
do you smooth it afterwards?
No, I don't really need to smooth it. The hump mold is quite smooth, and so no, you don't get ridges on the inside. It's really quite smooth. I might go over it with a rubber rib just to kind of smooth it, make a really nice slick surface. But other than that, I don't really do that anymore. Other than that, the surface is really smooth. So that's that pot. I'm gonna put this aside. Okay, that's heavy. And okay, where are we? Oh, good, we're almost an hour. Back to this again. So, and that will be, so on the file share, there are two pictures of two of these big bowls like this. And the way that those are fired, so the electric kiln smoke firing that I was doing, that I do, is in aluminum foil sagger with just a little bit of newspaper. And I find that the smaller amount of newspaper, the better. But these pieces were fired wrapped in aluminum foil, but with a lot of newspaper in the aluminum foil, because I wanted them to go black. And if you can get really nice blacks with this method. And but if you want to do that, then you have to do a longer firing, and you need to have enough newspaper in the sagger to fuel the smoke. And the other thing about this is the materials, the two articles I wrote for Powder Making Illustrated are on this file share, so you can have a look at those. And this is the pots are bisqued first. They're bisqued, and I'll use a white Terra Sig, and the white Terra Sig is a high fire ball clay made from a high fire ball clay, so it's quite open at low temperatures and takes a lot of smoke and goes really black really easily. And so I'll sig it and biscuit and sig it, and then I will fire it in the aluminum foil sagger. Are people asking me questions in the? Sorry, looking up my nose. Oh, okay. I don't know. I see things popping up on the screen, but don't put things in the chat. I can't read them from here. I have to ask them. I'll have to answer them afterwards. The computer's too far away and my eyes are too weak. Anyway, so
you bisqued it and then Terra Sig and then put Terra Sig and then bisqued it again?
Yeah, because the Terra Sig needs to be bisqued. Otherwise, it won't stick to the clay as well. It's better if you bisque it. For me, for my work, it's better if you bisque the Terra Sig on. The other thing with so with the other plates that you saw up there, those I'll put a paper. The firing, the foil sagger firing is only up to it's only up to about 500 degrees. This 500 degrees, well, 500 degrees centigrade, but you really only need to, sorry? Oh, sorry. You really only need to burn the paper. So remember 451. So you really only need to get up to, you know, somewhere around 500 degrees Fahrenheit. I go to 5 centigrade because my controller won't let me set it any lower than that. And so I want it to, we'll look at the kiln later. Yeah, so all you need to do is burn the paper. You don't need to get any hotter because the pots are already bisqued. So there's fired as they're going to get. The other plates that I do, the ones that are more decorated with the orange and the black and the white, I will bisque them, and then I'll put a layer of white terracig on them, and I may decorate over that with the orange terracig made from the clay I use, and so it's much lower and it's much denser and it forms a resist against the smoke and retains an orange color, goes kind of brownish or stuff like that. I'll decorate different ways with the orange sig over the white sig, and then I'll bisque the whole thing again. The reason why I bisque, especially with the decorated stuff, the reason why I bisque that is because if you don't bisque it, then all the layers are basically the same, and you don't get the kind of definition of between the different layers and the colors that I want. So I'll bisque the whole thing, and then I'll fire it in a foil sagger. And back. Need these anymore? Oh, there's more clay. A lot of clay out. There, it's heavy. Yeah, so that's those. And then these, I'm gonna have to move my everything. I'm gonna have to move my computer because the cable for the camera is not really long enough. But I want to show the kiln. So this is my kiln. Here, you can see it here. That's the kiln. It's just an ordered kiln, nothing special. It's made by a Belgian kiln company that's not in business anymore. But it's a very simple kiln, and you can see that there's 3 rings and they just stack on top of each other, which is great for me because I can have a big kiln or a small kiln. I can configure it the way I need for whatever kind of firing I'm doing. And it has an environment on the bottom that I brought back from the States that you can see is vented up the back and then out the window up there. And the fan is to keep the controller. It's a wall-mounted controller. The fan is to keep the controller cool. Electronics don't like heat. That because it's wall-mounted, it doesn't really get very hot anyway. It just gets slightly warm, but I want to protect it. So, especially since the company doesn't exist anymore and I can't get it repaired or get another one. So I want to take good care of it. And so that's my kiln. And then I'm just gonna, the lid just comes off like that. Everything just sits on top of each other. And I have there. Hope I didn't blind you. That's so you can see inside the kiln better. So, like I said, it's just a regular kiln. And what I'm doing now with these pieces, like these, so these are fired in a brick sagger in my electric kiln under charcoal. And what I've done is, so you can see in here, let's see this way. Let's see what you're seeing. Yeah, move it just a little bit more. So you can see inside there, that's just, it's 2 courses of hard brick. I could make it taller or shorter depending on, you know, how what the size of stuff I'm firing, how much I'm firing. And you can see it's just charcoal, and I have charcoal in there already. And I'll bury the pieces under there. And then I'll cover it with a kiln shelf. And I fire those up to 1100. Put this back over here again so I can see me. Up to 1100. An interesting thing about keeping notes is I had I was looking at an old notebook of mine that I'd found and discovered that this clay, I can actually fire it up to cone 4. And it doesn't bloat. Like, so it's a great clay. You're so jealous. And I can fire it up to cone 4. It without bloating. It gets quite dense and a little bit glassy. But it's a beautiful kind of red chocolate color. And it's nice. And I think I might go back and try firing these pots again, or these type of pots at higher temp. Probably not cone 4, but maybe cone 2, maybe that high. I'm not sure. We'll have to see. And what else was I going to say about
I have a
fire?
question.
Yeah.
With the ones that are for drinking espresso, does the smoky color come off?
No, it's integrated in the pot. And the other thing is that because I'm pushing this clay body higher, it's really meant to be fired at 1040 centigrade, which I think is, I don't know. I don't know. 1040, and I'm pushing it quite a bit higher because like I said, I'm firing it to 1100, so I'm 160 degrees higher, and so the clay is quite dense. And I did some absorption tests on these cups, and it's less than 1% absorption, so they're vitrified. And if I fired them higher, they'd be even more vitrified. So they're perfectly functional. The black does not come off. Yeah, it's just, I mean, good smoke fired ware. I mean, Marcia or any of the smoke firing experts can tell you, good smoke fire ware, the black shouldn't come off. If the black came off, then it's ash or soot, and the smoke didn't properly impregnate the clay. So this that. So that is those things and the kiln. Any other questions about the kiln or anything else?
I do. I always do. How much?
I know. I was looking forward to you. I was looking forward to your questions.
So with the charcoal in the brick sagger that's in your kiln, you put it like all the way so it covers the pot? Like you just keep pouring charcoal in, some on the bottom, some on the top?
Yeah.
And you just cover it? In
different ways. Sometimes I'll put the pots right in the bottom and cover them with charcoal, or I'll put the cups in the, on top of charcoal and put more charcoal on top. It depends on what I want. Also, if you take those and you reoxidize them again, then you get another nice, I'll put it over here. Maybe that's better. Get another nice, actually, I think I had some of these up on the share. You can't really see very well that. Get that. Trying to get so you can see the color, but these go kind of a red. Oh, that's better. There. So these go kind of. I think this one is actually up there on the share, and you can see how this goes. So it gets a nice red, toasty red color with a little bit of hints of black and some other little stains on it that I don't know what they are. So it's this experiment, and that was the next thing I was going to talk about. The program I was in was really really encouraged you to experiment. It was a small pot shop in outside Grand Rapids. Well, it was Grand Valley State Colleges, but it was Thomas Jefferson College of Grand Valley State Colleges, and we were out on the fringe campus, and I'm trying to get this in a better position so you're. So I'm at a better angle. The pot shop was out on the fringe of the campus, so nobody really cared what we were doing out there. And the program was really great because Billy Eddie Strickland, who was the teacher there, who's now deceased, just encouraged everybody to get involved, no matter what level you were in or at. If you were a complete beginner, if you were interested in something, you know, and were and prospecting for clay and glaze materials, experimenting with glazes, experimenting with firing, doing raku firings, wood firings. We had this is like 77, 78, and we were one of the few colleges in the country that had wood kilns. There were people who were doing wood firing. You had Malcolm Wright and Jack Troy and a lot of people like that. People were really starting to get into it, but there weren't many schools that had 3. And we built them all ourselves. We scrounged brick. Billy Eddie was a great scrounge. His studio was built entirely from scrounge materials. We scrounged brick, built these kilns. Rob Furnell mentioned Dennis Parks's book, and somebody brought his article Fired Free and his book Raw Glazing and Ash Glazed, I think it's called, something like that, into the studio, and we looked at that and thought, wow, that's really cool. Let's try that. And so we went around to the garages and brought back barrels of sump oil from oil changes from cars, and built a gravity feed system and built the burners. They were built out of pieces of pipe. Billy Eddie called them a harrow burner, and they were powered by a vacuum cleaner on reverse. Really, really noisy, but made a great flame. And we had a 2-chamber Norigama that Douglas Rankin, no, not Douglas, Will Ruggles was a couple of years ahead of me. He graduated before I arrived, and they came back and they did a workshop and kiln building workshop at our school, and they helped us build our first wood kiln, and out of scrounge brick, and it's 2-chamber Norigama Rock Ridge design, and we modified the firebox in that. We had to make it larger to accommodate the high volume from the oil firing, from the oil flame, and we fired with waste oil in that kiln. And waste oil is a great way to fire. It's really dirty, and you get a lot of the effects as you get with wood firing, but you don't get the ash, but you get a lot of the flashing and stuff like that. It's really, really nice. We built more wood kilns all ourselves. One of my fellow students was the paleontology professor at Thomas Jefferson, and he was really kind of disturbed that we didn't know where our materials came from and stuff like that, the sources. And so he developed a course called Geology for Potters, and we hopped into cars and went places, and he taught us how to prospect for materials, find things, identify what we've got, that kind of stuff. It was great. It was great. Things like if you like big rocks of schist and granite, if you bisque them to, I think, red heat 500, something like that, they break up and they're much easier to grind or use directly as body inclusions. It was a great place, and it had really, like I said, it had a really experimental attitude, and so that's really stuck with me. And so I've always tried to do things in a different way, or try to do things that people say you can't be done, like firing and smoking pots in my electric kiln. It's how can I say it? The smoking that I do is very, very light, even with the charcoal. Charcoal burns very, very clean, but when it burns, it emits sulfur dioxide and carbon monoxide and some various other things that are not nice to breathe. And that's why I have the vent, and it's all vented outside. I have in my studio, I have a carbon monoxide detector and a smoke detector, but they've never gone off. They barely even read. And the same with the foil sagger smoking. The foil saggers are
Have
very
you put
tightly
anything
sealed.
else in there besides the charcoal? Have you tried anything else in your sagger?
No, that's another that's another thing about me. I don't like too many choices. If I go to a restaurant that's got a big menu, it's difficult. It's really hard. And so this is something I did when I was in school as well. I started narrowing things down. I said there was this like whole semester I only pinched pots, and I that's all I did the whole semester. And so two reasons, and I've talked about this with Marcy. A lot of the ingredients that you use when you're smoke firing in a pit firing or in a or a gas kiln like that, the soluble salts, the salt, all the kind of stuff, it fires for the foil sagger firing. It usually doesn't have much effect at the temperature I'm using, which is, like I said, just above the temperature of burning paper. So it's like 500 degrees centigrade or Fahrenheit, and they don't really do much. And I wasn't really interested in trying all that stuff. So that's why I stuck with just newspaper. And like I said, you can get a lot of interesting effects with just the newspaper and the decoration and the resist that you use and things like that. One of the articles I wrote for Pottery Making Illustrated, Le Pièce de Résistance, is about that, and how resist when you do the smoke fire, the aluminum foil sagger firings, the smoke doesn't move. It doesn't move at all. And so you need to make up for that by how you decorate, the resist you use, the amount of paper. I mean, you can even use, the smoke doesn't move at all. You can use cutouts as stencils on your pot. Like in the article, I do like a little paper doll strip, and you put it on there, fired it, and you have a paper doll strip imprint on the pot. Things like that. So I think there's enough to learn. The thing that I like about having very narrow boundaries like this is it really forces you to focus, and it focuses you to try to do as much as you can with what you've got. And I find that really, really opens up my creativity, and I get lots more ideas that way than being overwhelmed by all the possibilities of all the things I could use. And it's really important for me. And as well, the charcoal firing as well. I don't put anything in there except the charcoal. And I'm just trying to see how much I can do with just the charcoal and just the firing. I might, I think now I might experiment with going a bit higher. But like, I introduce new things slowly. I try for a while, and if I think it's something that might help that, then I'll introduce it. But it's usually not adding another material. It's usually adding another method or something like that. Yeah. That answer your question?
Yeah, I was trying to get to do a luster reduction in my electric kiln. So I was putting the little sticks in the bottom to eat up the oxygen, and and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And I've been having a hard time finding that moment. And then I saw your the charcoal sagger thing, and I thought maybe that would work with putting sticks in there and then have kind of the metallics. It sucks out the oxygen, and trying to figure out that. That's what I'm trying to.
Yeah, charcoal is one way. Charcoal is one way that people have tried and have done. Some people have done. It works. It doesn't work. To do reduction in kilns, putting sticks in. There's a great story about one of my hero potters, Alan Cager Smith. So Alan Cager Smith basically rediscovered all the Hispano-Morisque lusters, beautiful lusters, and the Aldermaston pottery did fabulous work. I have a few of his pieces, and they're just gorgeous. The old style lusters and on tin glazed earthenware. And so when he was trying to figure out how to do the lusters, all he had was an electric. And so he was trying different materials in the electric kiln, and he found that actually fudge worked best. And so he was popping little bits of fudge through the peepholes in his electric kiln to get the proper reduction for his lusters. And yeah, you could say that Alan Cager Smith was a fudge packer. But anyway, but it's there are lots of ways that people have done that. So yeah, try it, experiment. I mean, that's the whole thing. That's one of the things that I learned in school, is that experiment. I mean, the smoke firing that I do in my kiln is quite it's quite light. I mean, it doesn't really have much effect on my kiln. I have had this kiln since 1995. I replaced the elements for the first time in 2019. I think part of the reason is that I fire low, so the smoke doesn't really have much effect. And the other thing is that it's vented, and there really isn't much smoke. Not much smoke in the fall saggers, and not much smoke escapes the saggers. You can smell it, but that's about it. You can't see it or anything, and you're not coughing or anything. You have a kind of a smoky smell, newspaper burning smell. And I was going to say, oh yeah, and so if I have a friend who in West Virginia, she lives in the Great Dismal Swamp, and she does the kind of foil sagger firing that people do in gas kilns and pit fires, with all the oxides and all that kind of stuff, and the banana peels and all that stuff that they put in there. And in her electric kiln, and she showed me her kiln after firing, and it's just a mess. It's just an absolute mess after firing. Bits of it's just horrible. But she has figured into her cost of doing business, and her pots are gorgeous. She has figured into her cost of doing business the replacing her elements more often, and having to spend hours vacuuming out her kiln after every firing. But she's figured it into she's made it work. So don't be afraid to experiment. If you've got your own kiln, if it's somebody else's kiln or a studio kiln or a school kiln, then it's a little more.
I have an old kiln that doesn't, the kiln sitter's broken, and I got it really cheap. So I do my experiments in that one. And then I use my digital kiln for the stuff that I, is not experimental.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good.
So that looking at your charcoal, thinking, yeah, that might work.
Food for thought there, Jillian.
Yeah. They do in Japan they do in Japan they do reduction firing and wood firing in electric kilns. They build kilns that are with much heavier elements, and kilns that are actually meant to do that with. And so they'll introduce ash. They'll have like some of them will have a drawer on the bottom where you can put wood or charcoal and stuff like that to do the reduction. And they get fantastic pots out of them. You'd swear they were wood fired. You'd swear that they were in a very ashy, wood fired anagama or something like that. So yeah, there are lots of ways to make pots. I think I've nearly gone an hour and a half.
Well, gosh, Russell, thanks so much. This has really been great. I really enjoyed actually just seeing you. It's been quite a while, but for you to share this with everyone has been really, really great. I want to give everyone, a couple of minutes if they want to unmute themselves and just say hello. Russell's here. Ask him anything you want.
We have 49 people. Who's that?
Snail.
Hi, Snail. Wow.
I didn't make it home times, so I'm doing this from my phone in the parking lot behind a bar.
Wow, I'm
It wasn't
touched.
at the bar, it just had a parking lot.
I'm touched. Thank you.
Maybe you'll go
That's
to the
great,
bar
Shay.
afterward.
Well, you can see Ken has recorded this, so you can see he'll post it in a couple of days up on the up on his YouTube channel. Yeah.
All right. Well, listen, I have to get back to my class and go load some kilns and things like that. And we got to let Russell get some sleep. But really great to see everyone. Lori, hello, and Snail, hi. It's just good to see everyone. So thanks so much for coming. And I'm going to try and do this in spring. Like I said, I've got 4 more artists lined up. Maybe you can come back and visit with us. Thanks again.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for showing up.
Thanks, Russell.
Bye.
Thanks for inviting us.
I love you all.
See you guys.
Love you too.
Love you.